Okay. So I'm back to share more stuff, put it out there for anyone who might find it helpful. Been a few days since I did one of these. Life was life for a few days and I didn't have the opportunity, but it did give me a chance to think a bit about what it is that I'm trying to share, what it is that I am even capable of sharing. I talked in my first video about wanting to speak to any young men out there, or men of any age really, who might have thus far in life followed the path that society and family and guiding influences condition the men of the world to follow. And for any out there who that approach they find to some extent, or maybe to a significant extent, that it doesn't really work for them, and they might be open to or looking for a different way. But then in my later videos, I was talking about, I don't necessarily think that the things that I used to struggle with, that I've made some progress on, are exclusive to that population of people that might be out there. And so just sort of wanting to speak on these things in a way that anyone who might be struggling with them, doesn't matter who you are. If these words help you at all, take what helps, and if anything sounds like just some 25-year-old moron thinking he knows more than he does, disregard it. Just trying to help to whatever extent I'm even capable of that. So what I realized is all I know is what I've been through and the stuff that I've found that helped me navigate it to the extent that I've even succeeded navigating it, right? It's, you never arrive at healed. You never finish growing. It's about surrendering to the process and continuing on, and to whatever extent you realize, based on how your life path has gone so far, that you need to work on this or that, doing your best to work on it without expecting perfection of yourself or getting down on yourself when you stumble or fail or aren't perfect or make a mistake or whatever. The quicker you can forgive yourself that you made the mistake and try to figure out why you made the mistake, the better. So I talked about, I guess, reflecting back on where I was at when I was so lost. When I was at my most lost, or hopefully hopefully there's not more lost coming in the future than where I had been back at that time, but time will tell. I was very not my consciousness, your life path, your experience is the stream of consciousness that you experience. You don't, if I can get a little frou-frou for a sec, you are not your mind. Your mind is part of you. You are not your thoughts. Some of those intrusive thoughts, right? Things will pop into your mind because it is something that evolved to help the animal that is you survive. So your mind will throw things at you, will put things right in front of your consciousness to reckon with, just as like a heads up, right? You can, it's easy to get down on yourself because, oh, this thought popped into my mind. I'm so horrible for thinking that. But you didn't choose to make that thought pop in there. And the fact that you don't feel good about thinking that thought kind of is an indication that it's not you. If it doesn't resonate, like you get to choose which thoughts to empower as the ones you want to claim, and which ones you want to say, oh, that's my fear talking, that's my anxiety talking, that's yada yada yada. You get the idea. So I realized, like, nowadays I'm very able to name whatever emotion or state of consciousness I might be in a given moment. I've worked a lot on mindfulness and consciousness. But that wasn't always the case, that I could name those things. I didn't even always have, like, I don't think that as a culture, we actually do a good job of having a shared understanding of what emotions are what, and not to mention, like, being accepting of the fact that we all feel all those emotions. Cloud cover. It was sunnier earlier. There are, like, certain emotions that I guess culturally, societally, or in families, we get to saying, like, or we stigmatize certain feelings, which sucks because we all feel all the feelings. So on that point, I talked about The Gifts of Imperfection and Daring Greatly by Brené Brown last week. And I do really, really, really stand by reading those books with an open mind. But there's also this one. This is Atlas of the Heart. It's basically like a, she's a researcher, Brené Brown. She basically interviews humans on, like, a mass scale about their experiences, their feelings, their coping mechanisms and toolkits and whatnot. And by consolidating all that data of so many different people's perspectives, tries to find pretty, like, objectively defensible definitions for things or frameworks or whatever. And so in this case, here's the first page of the table of contents for you. It's literally like she has identified all the emotional states that she can and kind of grouped them into related areas. So if you are someone who, as part of your coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, if what you've been through, the feelings were so big that as part of surviving it, you had to create an off switch to where you can just, like, I can't feel that right now, so I'm going to go not feel that right now. You were probably right that you had to create that. But if you're watching this video and you're open to new ways, then that might be a sign that that is the usefulness of that coping mechanism may not be. You may have seen where it is biting you in the butt now, right? So if what you need is to like work on getting more conscious about what you're feeling so that you can try to figure out what it is that's making you feel that and start to figure out what shifts you need to make to start feeling better, that book is a great resource for getting to know your own feelings better, getting more in touch with your own feelings, getting more mindful about what you're feeling, so that you can stop, maybe you feel like that you're just at the mercy of your feelings. But you can learn to sort of stop letting them rule you and start accepting that they've shown up, letting yourself feel them, but also understanding them for the signals that they are, and taking them for the feedback that they are, and then but also detaching a little bit from, not over identifying with that you're in that emotional state, saying I'm in this emotional state, why am I in this emotional state, and therefore how should I navigate forward. And then another thing that I'll say is, I've been recommending some books, but when I was at my most lost, I could hardly get through a book. I loved reading as a little kid, and then at a certain point, somewhere around middle school or early high school, it got in my head this concept of like that being a good reader had something to do with reading this amount of stuff in this time. And so then I started to get super, when I would be trying to read something, I wouldn't be like in the actual sentence that I was in. I was trying to read what I was trying to read while also thinking about what page I was on and how quickly I was getting through it, and is that quick enough, and yada yada yada. So maybe that's something that you're finding. Now I can get through books if I have the time. Honestly, like, life does get in the way a lot. I don't, a big part of being able to get through books is being able to accept and not judge myself for the long gaps that can occur between when I put the book down and when I pick it back up. And not judging myself if I only get through like 2 books in a year, which totally happens. That very well may be what happened in 2024. I would have to think about it. And then the other thing being like screen addiction, device addiction, doom scrolling addiction. Let me drop the word addiction. Like, if you are not in a place of mindful consciousness, and you're in the place that society kind of conditions you into of, binge watching a lot of TV shows and, watching internet porn, like, also there's plenty of numbing behaviors that are not to do with distracting yourself with content, but maybe getting high, getting drunk. If you are engaged in a lot of activities that relieve you from mindfulness and mindful consciousness, that's okay. I mean, I would imagine that if that resonates for you, you would like very badly. You probably have some attachment to a desire or a need or an expectation to not be in that place anymore, and to not be in that place anymore quite quickly. I wish I could tell you that there is a quick fix for that. I think that what I would actually advise is to try and accept where you are at, and it took me years. Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe you'll be able to turn that around much faster. Certainly I didn't. I haven't walked this path perfectly, and I have not reached a mountaintop with it. So, try and not judge yourself for that. You are leaning on those behaviors, those choices to sort of numb yourself and not feel the hard feelings. You probably if you don't think it for yourself, let me be the one who believes it for you. You developed those coping mechanisms for a good reason. You did maybe need to protect yourself. A more actionable piece of advice that I could give is just going for walks and leaving your phone in the house and not bringing a device. Or you know what, if you want to listen to music on your walks at first, go ahead and do that. Maybe try it. But it's so much easier to not scroll when you physically separate from the devices, So for me, one of the big stepping stone ways of practicing more mindfulness that eventually got me to a place where I had enough inner stillness and inner quiet and ability to sit in my emotions and my presence and all that, and eventually get around to meditation, yoga, I suppose, which I don't go to a yoga studio or anything. I had back pain fall of 2023, and so I kind of dusted off my stretching routines that my coaches had taught me in high school, in the sports that I had done in high school, and just sort of started finding that there were other motions, ways to other ranges of motion related to those stretching routines that I had learned in high school that also felt good. And, eventually in talking to people about this, I just kind of had it pointed out to me that I was sort of practicing yoga. It was more just about stretching and trying to get my ranges of motion back and trying to get my frame, my joints, my ligaments and tendons to all feel better. But walking, just literally going for walks. And at first I was definitely headphones in. And in time I was more capable of, realizing how the headphones in was like armor, barricading me from presence in where I was at, and physically getting away from the phone. Like I said, that's a huge piece. It'll be so much easier not to be on. Yeah, that kind of speaks for itself. And then the other thing I would want to say is I've mentioned a couple things about where your coping mechanisms might have come from the stuff you've been through in the past, right? And then I've also mentioned mindfulness, consciousness, presence. You're not in the past. You're in this moment. And you will only ever be in the present moment. I think a lot of the unhelpful, anxiety and fear-inducing cognitive cycles that people get caught in, they have to do with they have to do with ruminating on the past and being really scared of finding yourself in those situations again, having that stuff happen again, because it's really easy to blame yourself for, because you probably contributed to how those things played out in some way. And thinking that the way that you show up will cause those situations to occur again. That's a valid fear. But the good news is that if you actually work on how you show up, if you don't work on how you show up, those situations will happen again. If you do work on how you show up, they won't happen again, or you'll be able to walk away as it's starting to play out again and not really be as impacted by it happening again. But subconsciously, a lot of kind of got lost in the sauce for a sec. You can't control what's going to come to pass in the future, except in the parts that you can control. But if you are thinking about it in terms of like what you want tomorrow to look like, but then what you're doing today has no connection to what that tomorrow looks like, you can see how that tomorrow is not going to come. Tomorrow is not going to come. It will only ever be now. Your consciousness will always be in now. So rather than thinking about what you'd like the future to be like, try and make now that future already. Make now as close to what you would want tomorrow to look like as you can. And eventually today will look like what you're envisioning tomorrow looking like. And actually, I'll get more into this in future videos. Really, really quickly, it will. It also takes knowing. There's also some work to be done in like knowing why it is that you want what you want, or why you think you want what you want. And you might come to realize actually that the thing that you think that you want is a reflection of some validation that you're looking for, or some validation that you're looking for. And in a lot of cases, you might realize that you can validate yourself in that way without needing that external thing, or that outcome, or that scenario. So all this just to say, and then, the thing I got lost in the sauce on, of like, fearing the past repeating itself, and so then letting that fear guide your decision making. The past won't repeat itself if you learn your lesson from it. And fear and anxiety, I think, are what they indicate is that there's some story that you tell yourself about yourself, some way that you've learned to identify yourself out of blaming yourself for how something happened in the past. I'm so horrible because that situation went that way, or something along those lines. So when you find yourself getting scared of something, It's really like an indication that something in your present is coming up that will be like a new chapter in the book of that story that you tell yourself about yourself. And so fear is really just like an indication of how important a situation is, and that you need to tap into some courage and show up and give it your best. And if you give it your best, you know, you can't control the outcome. Other people will also be involved, and that will have a say in what the outcome is. But if you do your best, the outcome doesn't really matter, because you have nothing to feel bad about. You can't do better than your best. And your best is going to be flawed because you're a human. So yeah, try to not ruminate so much on the past. Try to not cling so much to what you want the future to be, and work on getting off the screens, getting off, you know, and don't be gentle with yourself. There's no rush. You're protecting yourself with your numbing behaviors. Man, it's so hard not to stumble over your words doing this. You know, don't be in a rush to get off the screens, but try to work on being more present and conscious and mindful in the moment you're in, and thinking less about the past scenarios, thinking less about the future scenarios, thinking less about the rooms that you're not in as well. Like, that's something that used to be the case for me, like looking at social media of like peers or whatever and being like, oh, if I could be included in that, you know. I'll talk more about how actually the people you gravitate towards and away from, and like listening to your body. Yeah, I'm kind of introducing this mindfulness and consciousness concept for anyone who it might be foreign to them, to get into like listening to your feelings more and using them as a compass. But don't worry so much about the rooms that you're not being included in or something like that, or anything along those lines. Like, you are where you are for a good reason, and you gravitate towards and away from the stuff that you do for good reason. And sometimes you do put yourself in painful situations that are comfortable because you're still caught in cycles where you're showing up the same and recreating the past situations. And that's okay too. And you can work on that too. And I'll talk about that in future videos. But presence, consciousness, mindfulness in the present moment, and just working on making that moment more how you want tomorrow to be, right? And working on trying to figure out why it is you want your tomorrow to look like how you want it to look. And gentleness with yourself, patience for that it's a process that takes time, and you're at where you're at currently, and you can only improve so quickly. I feel like there was one other bullet point I wanted to get to in summarizing. Shall we sit here for a sec and see if it comes back? Self-compassion, I guess. That's not the thing I was searching for, but it was something to do with like making the current moment. Oh yeah, acceptance. Acceptance of where it is that you're at. Because you're there for a good reason. And you are strong enough to figure out the way forward. If it's not working for you, the fact that you know that kind of means that you do have the answer. All right. Have a good one, guys. And I'll be back whenever I have the next opportunity to make a video, and you're killing it. And try and focus on the good shit that's going down, because when you feel down, you're probably overlooking the good shit that is going on in your present moment. You know, appreciate the loved ones you haven't lost yet, because you will someday. You know, when you focus on the future, try and I got this from some other person's YouTube video. Watch watch people who give advice who aren't me. Because I am an imperfect communicator, and I can only do my best at getting these concepts across. And it'll definitely, whatever I'm talking about, you'll be way better at practicing it if you go to other people as well. And you might find that they do a better job and you do not come back to this channel, and that's fine. You will find the people who can communicate it in the way that works for you. I can only explain it so well. I'm not perfect at practicing any of these things myself. And, you know, any concepts I talk about that seem interesting or seem to resonate, Google them. Go find a book. Like, other people are higher level experts than I am, but I'm just trying to help you find the right direction, I guess. But that future thing, I got this from somebody else's YouTube video. Remember that you'll always be in the present moment. Today, the present moment will only be today so long. It will be tomorrow at some point. And some of the stuff that's good going on right now, you won't have that anymore. So try and focus on your in your presence and consciousness and mindfulness. Try and focus more on what is good and go towards that more, and try and not be so hung up on the stuff that you'd like to be different, and try and just create some space between yourself and that stuff that you'd like to be different. That is the process, going towards what's good and away from what is not serving you. That is what we're talking about with the gradually making the tomorrow that you want be the now. That's the key to it. Okay, peace, love, gratitude, joy, health, abundance, safety to all of you. You got this. You're killing it. Peace out.